Welcome to today's class on organizing your embroidery fonts using Embrilliance AlphaTricks. My name is Lisa Shaw, and I will be taking you through the step-by-step process on how you can use the new AlphaTricks Font Manager to quickly and easily find the fonts that you need in your program. Hello everyone. Let's talk a little bit about what AlphaTricks is. First of all, it's a program from Embrilliance, and when you install and authorize the program, there are two functions to it. The first one, which has been widely documented, is the font mapping function. This puts a little needle with an ABC on your menu bar, and when you select that option, it allows you to either rename your installed fonts, or the first screen that comes up, like the one shown here to the left, says, would you like to begin importing a font? Importing a font means taking an alphabet design collection, A.Pez, B.Pez, C.Pez, and using the font mapping feature of AlphaTricks to turn it into a keyboard font. If you have questions on how to use that, be sure to check out the AlphaTricks playlist on our Embrilliance YouTube channel, for that has been one of the main functions of AlphaTricks since the very beginning. Now, in the latest update to AlphaTricks, there has been a new function added called the Font Manager. And this is accessed by clicking on the capital A small a button located in your Properties pane. So when you select the lettering tool in Embrilliance and you get the lettering pane as shown here to the left, you'll see to the right-hand side of your font pull-down menu, there's a new button, capital A small a. And that, as soon as you click on that button, it opens up a font manager window. And this is where all the power lies on how you can organize your fonts by adding your own categories or tags, how you want to call them, or using the built-in features of sorting or selecting certain types of fonts and using a search function. There's so much to this font manager window, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. So before you even start organizing, I'm going to save you some trouble, okay? Because when I was given the program to the first place, I said, oh, I want to start organizing my fonts, boom, boom, boom. And the tag that I thought would be most important was by size. So I started creating all these tags and organizing and categorizing, and my tag list became humongous. It was no faster to find any of my fonts because I didn't make a plan ahead of time. Okay, I wasn't using the features of the font manager that would have helped me find small fonts or large fonts, or by a search by a name, or by digitizer. I didn't use the font manager at all. I simply dove in and started creating tags, which just made a mess. So I'm going to suggest to everyone to think about what your pain points are and make your plan on what would make it easier to find the fonts that you're looking for. And when we pop into the software, we will see how to make tags, how to use them, and maybe give you a starting point on how to create your own font tag list so that you can find the fonts that you want quickly and easily. But first, before we even start talking about tags, we're going to hop into the Embrilliance platform with AlphaTricks installed and check out the features, the powerful search and organizational features already built into Font Manager without even touching the tag feature. And that is what I highly recommend people start using first before they start adding tags, because tags really should be used for when you know this is a pain point. I need to access my monograms really fast. So let's pop into the software and see what this font manager is all about. So here we are in our software. First thing, in order to tell that you have AlphaTricks installed, first is very visible because you see the font mapper button, which is your needle with the ABC next to it, shown right here at the top of the screen. That's a giveaway that your AlphaTrix is installed. To make sure that your AlphaTrix is installed and up to date, when you select the lettering tool and you get the block font ABC in the center of the screen, next to your font list you will have a capital A small a. If you do not see this new button, this means that you need to update your software by going to the downloads page and downloading and installing the latest platform update. Installation instructions are listed on the downloads page. If you have any trouble, click on Contact Us and they will walk you through the process. But this button here, when you have a lettering object selected, is the Font Manager function of AlphaTrix. When you select this button, you get a rather large dialog box that has a whole bunch of information in it. Okay? First off, when you have we have our font selected. This also has a preview button which allows you to choose what font you want to view. So, currently my block font is selected. If I check the preview button and I click on a different font, it changes and is reflected in your display pane. If you turn off your preview button and select a font, that allows you to do certain, first of all, you don't see it preview here, but this allows you to do certain functions such as discard, which we'll talk about in a bit, or removing tags. And a font cannot be active if you want to remove features from it. And when I say active, I mean it cannot be selected to be showing in your display pane. So when you're using your program to utilize the tags, the searching, etc., use the preview button so that you can select the font that you want, click OK, and that's the same thing as if you were using the pull-down menu here in our list. Okay? When you are organizing and you're adding your tags, deleting tags, doing organizing functions, I would highly suggest to uncheck the preview button so that this does not change and you're allowed to do anything with the fonts in your list as far as discarding or removing tags. It saves a heartache of getting an error message. Okay, so I'm just moving this into the screen so we can see it closer. This window goes away as soon as you click OK or cancel. So you can't do anything else in this properties pane or anything else in the design until you close your dialog window. First of all, before we start talking about adding the tags, let's see how the Font Manager has built-in features that allow you to find the font that you need, in particular for your project, quick and easy, without even thinking about the tags. So first of all, this pane here is our tag pane. We're going to talk about that last because that is adding tags. You do not want to create this list to be long and complicated. So learn how to use the sorting, the sizing, the searching features of the top pane first before adding tags so that your list becomes manageable and more efficient. So right off the bat, some people want to or they know the font they want to use, and it is either a stitch-based BX or a native font. The filter here at the top allows you to show only your native or your stitch-based BX fonts. If you don't know what a native font is, those are the ones that do not have names or needles to the left of their name. That is like block font, which is one of the 15 fonts that comes with Essentials. That's a native font. The link for the blog post that explains the difference is in the description of this video. So That's going to explain it, okay? So native fonts do not have the needle next to them. They have superpowers. They usually come in one size. Sometimes if a digitizer has created a native font, they may have multiple sizes, but not 10 sizes. There's no need for a native font to have 10 sizes because they do have superpowers. They're available to change the underlay, the density. They were digitized in Stitch Artist and published in Stitch Artist so that we can use them and have access to the objects in our Embrilliance platform. So Linny Penny is a digitizer that has created native BX fonts as an example. She has her bean stitch fonts or floss fonts as they're called. If you have a small floss font, you may only want to have it be 3 passes. If you have a large floss font, a 3 pass, even though you could resize it to be larger, it would look wimpy. So to be more effective, the digitizer may have small, medium, and large to reflect changes that cannot be controlled by the Stitch tab as explained in the native blog post, of native font blog post. So some fonts, native fonts, do not have a needle next to them but come in multiple sizes. That's probably because there's different stitch properties on each one of them. They're still sizable. There's just something different. But for the most part, native satin stitch fonts that are native will not have a needle next to them. So they can be resized with more robustness, and you can adjust the underlay and the stitch top properties if they're satin stitch. So that's sometimes the font, you working on it and it needs to be scaled dramatically. Maybe you need it to be a 1/2 inch as well as 3 inches. That's a lot of scalability for a font, and you need to change your underlay for those different sizes. So working with a native font would be easy, or would be the best solution, which is why there's a filter at the top that lets you choose just native fonts or just imported fonts. So you see the ones that have the needles next to them. So that's a nice little filter right off the bat. If you happen to know you purchased a native BX font and you're like, oh, I remember it only came in one size. I forgot who the digitizer was. This font has this list of fonts. When you change it into native, it went from 1972 down to 149. That's a lot more reasonable number to scroll through to see the sample. And of course, if you have your preview set, you can select the font and see its preview here on the screen so that you're being able to view exactly what it is that what you want to work with. Okay, so that's our filter here at the top. Directly to the right, we have our sorting function. By default, our font list, just like the font list in our lettering properties pane, is in alphabetical order. Okay, so let me go and change this back to all fonts. And it's set to alphabetical. This is exactly what you would see in your font list. The alphabetical order has to do with how the digitizer named the font. So most digitizers who are providing their alphabets as BX files will put some sort of code in the front of their font to designate that it is a font from the Itch to Stitch. Or I have some GN fonts here, which are from Great Notions. They have put a code in the front of their font so that you can find them easily. That's alphabetical. Okay. Also under that sorting, maybe you're looking for fonts of maybe you want to see all the tiny fonts first. So have them list in your font list by size. Maybe the size is by default. When I say default, that's default size is the size you see when you click on the lettering tool and choose that font. So you didn't make any adjustments. Whatever it shows up at, that's the default size that it was given. So that's one option of sorting. Maximum size means based upon the stitch processor for fonts, so the ability to resize them, and what a font can be as far as the maximum it can be resized or the minimum that it can be shrunk. So if you're trying to find your fonts in order by the, excuse me, by size that they can be resized, that's a good sorting option. It's an option available to you to help find easier. So think about when you have your project in mind that you're working on, whether it's Christmas stockings or maybe you're doing quilt labels, birth statistics, just doing baby bibs, anything, whatever it is that you're putting your lettering on, embroidery on, maybe being able to find the font faster can be done by changing the sorting of your font list. The next one to the right is a search function, and this is absolutely fabulous. In fact, I use it very often when I was beginning my organizing with my tags. Because say you are looking for a font that has a specific name to it. So as opposed to scrolling down your list, and remember, you're going alphabetical order, so I see DBJJ, and she has all of her fonts that are in here. And you happen to know the name of the font that you're looking for. So I know I have a font that has the word coffee in it. I can sort of see it in my head. So under the search type here, I will type in COFF. And as soon as you start typing in the word, it starts popping in. So there's my coffee font that has that name. You can type anything you want in there. Maybe the font name has the word applique in it. APP. I just start typing the letters because applique, I can see that this digitizer, this 2-inch sugar cakes applique, puts the entire word of applique. And as you notice, this is all caps and this was small letters. So the search function doesn't care about capitals or smalls. It's just taking characters and matching it. I noticed that Creative Appliques, which is the name of a digitizer, she uses APP in the name of her applique fonts. So Sweets Applique. Some people type in the whole word applique. So if that helps me find a font that would be applique. Just by typing in APP, it shows me pretty much all of my applique fonts as I'm listed here. However, do you see Itch to Stitch Happy, which has APP, and it's Happy Day Floss? It's also picked up. So it simply finds the whatever letters you type in here. If I put an L after this, of course, that Happy Day Floss is now no longer listed. The only ones that are showing here, Appliance is, because it has the lettering, but most of those will be appliques. So using that search function, if you happen to know what the name of the font is, that will find it in your list. Now, I'm going to pick on this JD061 appliance because JD stands for Jolson's Designs. Okay, now let me get rid of this APP here. And I am going to scroll down in my list to my Jolson's fonts. So here's another shortcut. I want to immediately get to my Jolson's fonts. I don't have to scroll through my 1,972 fonts. I can go to my designer list here, scroll down until I go to my imported section, because these are all of my stitch-based fonts. Go to the folder that says Jolson's Designs, click on it, and look at all the fonts that are done by Jolson's. And some of them I have already added the name of the font that it belongs to, such as Harrington or Typewriter or Appliance. But the name or normally the fonts that I get from them only have the code from the website. So one of the things that I could do on this is if I knew what the name of the font was. For example, I'm looking at this where it says JD425. This one, I'm pretty sure it is similar to Harrington. So if I'm looking for a font that looks like Harrington, If you guys don't know what Harrington font looks like, it's something I use very often in Christmas. And you'll see many people are asking for the Harrington font. And I think this one looks like it. It may not be exact, but there's a few fonts that are similar. So I'm going to select this font here, and I'm going to add the word Harrington to the name. To do that, I select it. I'm going to write, and I want to make sure that my preview is off. If the preview has been checked, I'll click off the font, uncheck preview, and click on it just so that I don't cause any problems. Right click on it, and you'll see that there are three options. One is to adjust the display name, which changes the name that you see here. And for this example, that's what I want to do. The other option shows edit catalog entries. And when you choose this option, it tells you that this particular font has not been assigned a tag. Maybe for whatever reason, I have not assigned any tags to this font yet. So that's what it would be listed like. The other option that's listed here is discard. And that is an option that you can use that will remove it from this list, and it puts it in a folder so that if you ever wanted to add it back, you can. I wouldn't delete, but it will remove it from this font list. It will no longer be shown here. So it is one way to pare down the list. For example, maybe you have a 4x4 machine. You're never going to stitch an 8-inch font. It's just not going to fit in a 4x4 machine. So maybe you want to go through, find the 8-inch fonts and discard them, which only, it still keeps them with the program. So you can use Windows Explorer and bring them back. That's something that isn't going to be done often. So if you need help with that, contact support and they'll send you the instructions on how to undiscard, but it just takes it out of the folder and puts it back to where it belongs. But it's better to discard them rather than to delete them because maybe you want them again, but they won't load when you open your program. So that's what the discard does. But adjusting the display name, that's if when you choose that, it shows you what's going to be shown in this particular font list. It does not change what will be shown in this font list. So it's only showing what's going to be happening to display, to be used with the search in the Font Manager. If you want to change the name overall, you need to use the font mapping button, which has more root controls, which will delete a font from your computer as well as rename it. So that's a different program. But if I wanted to add the word Harrington, just so that if I searched on Harrington, I would find it, click OK, and it puts in the display name here. So now I'm going to click off, and I put my mouse cursor in the white space so that I am looking again at 1,972 fonts, and I'm going to go up here to the top and type in HERR. I just like to start typing, and it found the one that's called 1-inch Harrington, as well as this one, which is a Jolson's Designs. Maybe these are by two different digitizers. So I have two Harrington fonts available for my choice by searching on the name. Just an option for you. If you click off in here, that will that changes whatever folder you had selected. To clear your search topic or whatever options you have here, hit the clear button, and that will remove whatever filters that you have had set as far as the searching function so that you see everything. So this, of course, is still only showing my Jolson's Designs. If I go up here to the top and say all designers, that shows all my fonts in my list. So this is where you see everything. So that shows you the filter, the sorting, and the searching. This question mark toggles off this information screen at the bottom. This information screen is when you have a font selected. It shows you the characters. Oh, let me move it. Nope, you can see it. I'm going out of the way because I thought I was in the way, but I'm not. It shows you the characters that are mapped to this particular font. It shows you the default size, Remember, we were talking about the sorting, the size that it comes into the display pane, the smallest that's recommended that you can shrink it to, and the largest. Still always recommend, if you are resizing, to do a test sew, but at least you have the numbers here to give you some information. The other information that is listed is whatever copyright information that the digitizer has provided. Sometimes this can include what you're allowed to do with that particular font. If it's a specialty font, like maybe a Mylar font, that where you need to put different layering, they might include the instructions in this area. All of this information is normally found under View, About This Design page, but it's also linked in the font, so you find it all in one place at one time. Okay, so that's what that question mark does. The size. Now, you can search on size in this list. And if you notice, most of the digitizers, or I should say many digitizers, when they name their fonts, because of computer requirements, they do not use a period. That causes problems with some operating systems. So when they put the name in, it was 1_5, which is 1.5. Some digitizers may do a 1-1/2, so 1.5, as opposed to 1_5. Every digitizer is different, so typing in 1IN will find all the fonts that have 1IN in them, but this only brought in 57 fonts, which may not be any of the fonts that had 1_0, because it literally, you're saying, oh, I'm searching for my 1-inch fonts. Well, you're searching for the fonts that have the number 1, the letter I, and the letter N, one right next to that character string. That's what it's searching for. So using the search to find a size by typing it in, could be misleading unless you are used to what the name is. So this was 1_0, which will not find the 1IN. So it is just a character string search. Okay. So since that's just a character string search, that is why they came up with the size filtering here. This is awesome. Okay. If you know what type of project you're working on, say you're working on, you've gone to Designs by Baby Moon, and you have gotten the little friendship bracelet and you want to add small lettering on that. Choosing mini or micro fonts, which are, that's what you wouldn't you call something that's being stitched on a small bracelet a mini font or a micro font? It's not, there is no sizing. It's not going to be from a 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch. It's a mini font. It's a micro font, really, really tiny. Things that can be resized also, because as you see, when I chose micro, it brought in a 1/4 inch font. It brought in the mini fonts from my Patch Artist software. It brings designs in that were 3/4 of an inch that with the stitch processor can be shrunk down and test sewed at that size. But it narrows down the list of 1,972 down to 30 fonts because you're looking for a specific project. So think about what it is you're stitching it on, and that immediately, that's what I do when I'm going into looking for a font that's going to work. I change the size to whatever it is I'm working on. If I'm looking for, say, mega lettering, I want one big initial on here, I'm going to go that pull down list and say either large or extra large. There's my extra large fonts. It doesn't care what they're named. I can see exactly what they are. Now, so I found my extra large fonts. These here are from either the Renaissance collection. Those are the native fonts. So I know that they are very large. I know that this one here, the scroll or the iron, those have been resized almost to 12 inches, I think is the most I've stitched them as big. No, 14 inches. Sorry, I stitched on my Janome. So these can be resized. They may not come in at the really big size, but they have the capability of being resized. This font here at the top, which has a needle next to it, I'm looking at the name, which I can't even tell what the digitizer is. That's the name of the font. But when I select that font, I can go down here to the bottom and I'm looking at the numbers. They don't even it's not intuitively obvious to me what the size of the font is. But I can go right to my information screen here and it tells me that the default size comes in at, 8 inches? Yes, 8 5/16 of an inch. So that is 8 inches high. That's what that 8IH stands for. Who knew? But at least I can see what my default size is and that I have the capability of resizing and, of course, doing a test sew to make sure that it worked. It tells me that it's a stitch-based font and it's from Apex. So it gives me all sorts of information on that font in case I'm looking for coordinating designs, etc., or who digitized this font. Or say I stitch out this font, and let me just show you a preview of what it looks like, because I'm going to click on it here. Look how beautiful that font is. Sorry, I put the screen over my face here, but that's a beautiful, large, mega monogram. Wouldn't that be great for Christmas? Okay, now, and of course, Holly Bear is a giveaway that it is a Christmas font. Now, what if so I'm looking at this, and this is helping me determine what type of fonts or what type of tags I want to start using to organize my fonts. Now, and I see Christmas scroll, I see the holly berries, and as I go back, I'm going to clear my font list so it goes to any size, any filter, so I see all of my fonts. And because this one was selected, it shows me all the fonts above it, which are probably my Apex fonts. And if I had scrolled down here to the imported fonts and clicked on Apex, that would show me all the Apex fonts, no matter what they are named. That's where they're from. So this is our digitizer font list. So if you know where a particular font came from, this may be one way to find that font faster. That's what I said, using the built-in capabilities of the Font Manager is a great way to use it to find the font that you want for your project. We have not even started adding tags yet. I'm just trying to save you guys some of the pain that I had by creating a huge font list or a tag list, which didn't make it any easier for me to find the font because I didn't remember what tags I had created. Just scroll down through the list. So use the filtering, the sizing, the digitizer, whatever it is that you need to use to find your fonts. And while you're doing that, think of the tags that might make sense for you. Okay, so let's take a look at tags and how to create them. In our upper pane here, this is our categories, and I call them tags. Categories, tags, it's a little flag that's assigned to a font, and a font can have more than one tag so that you can find it easier. So if I look at mine, and this is just something that I've created where it makes sense to me, I've created a category called Applique. And if I click on my Applique tag, this has found a whole bunch of my 72, I haven't put all of them in here yet, but I have 72 Applique fonts that are on my computer. Okay, how did I find those Applique fonts in the first place? Well, when I have no tag selected, so I have nothing here, let me turn off my preview. First of all, let me get back to block font. So I'm going to click on my favorites because I know block font is there, and it's set to my preview, and I'm going to uncheck preview just so that I can start moving my fonts around and tagging them and maybe deleting them or whatever. I don't want to cause a problem. So I'm back into block font. So now, how might I find Applique fonts? To assign them to a tag. If I go into my search here and type in APP, which we saw typed in applique, this brings up, I see 242 that it brought up with those names. And even though some of these may already be in my font already tagged, I can look through this and see I'm looking at applique, app. I want to make sure I don't get the one, we had seen one that said appliance. To assign these fonts to the applique tab category here, it's a click, hold, drag, and drop. So if I select a bunch of these, click, hold, drag, and drop them on the applique tab, it's going to put them all in there. So I would go through this whole list, and you can scroll through to find them. You just wanted to remember that not all the APP fonts were appliques. Okay, so if I grab all of these guys here, click, hold, drag, and drop them on the applique, they get put there. Now I'm looking at, here I have an applique, it's to stitch, and it's Charlie Brown, or it says Charlie. And I know this font, Charlie Brown has it's yellow with the ziggy-zag thing on it. Well, I consider that to be more of a character applique because it's not something I might type in an entire word with. I might use initials. So I might just want to put those into my character subcategory, which is still in the applique. So selected just those, click, hold, drag, and drop them into the character, which puts them in my character tab. There's Charlie, but also in the applique tab, it automatically puts them there at the same time because anything that's in a subcategory automatically gets put in the same tag, the parent tag. How's that? So if you have subtags, etc. So zigzag, if I put these ZZs, because that's what ZZ stands for, zigzag applique, I can click, hold, drag, and drop them to zigzag, which will put them in both zigzag and applique. I have ones that say, can you put them in more than one section? Absolutely. Say I have applique here and I'm looking, I have blanket, character, double, monogram, raw edge, and satin. Well, I have some alphabets here or some fonts that only have numbers. Maybe I should make a subcategory because I want to just pop into, if I'm looking for doing birthday shirts, I would like to find the appliques that are just numbers. I don't want to hope that this one has a number in it. It might. If I click on this, let's see. This is applique numbers. So if I click on Charlie, while I'm clicking on Charlie Brown, I can look at it. It's only A through Z. There are no numbers for this particular applique. These only have numbers. So if I want to create a tag for applique numbers, I put my mouse cursor on applique. I right click where it says add tag, and it puts a new tag underneath applique, Numbers. It's now created a numbers one, so I can select, I look at this one, and I can go up here. These are just numbers because that's what the names say. And I can click, hold, drag, and drop them into that numbers tag so that there he is under the numbers. So if I'm looking for something really fast, I can go through that. Again, in my search here, I can type in number because I notice that these are all the numbers. You see how fast I can grab all of these ones that say numbers? Actually, every single one of these is just a numbers and it's only applique. Select the first one, scroll down, and I'm just going to carefully make sure so I don't do anything that's strange here. These are all numbers. Hold down the shift key on my keyboard so that when I click on the last one, it grabs all of them at the same time. Click, hold, drag, and drop them in the numbers. Clear out my sorting here, and when I click on numbers, these are all the fonts I just assigned to that numbers tag. So if that helps me find numbers fast for the projects that I'm working on, that's a tag that makes sense to me because that makes sense. That's a tag to do. Okay, I can't express enough on how you need to think about your tags as you put them in here. When I first started, I made a tag called 1 inch, and I moved everything in the 1 inch, 2 inch. Well, then I had 2.5, and then I had 2.25 inch fonts because some people do that. Where does that go? So my tag list became unbelievably crazy. So use it to organize that in a pattern that makes sense to you. If you happen to be working on if you happen to be looking at your fonts, okay, and I have cleared all of my fonts, I'm going to click off so I'm not selecting any tag, and I happen to be scrolling through my list and I'm looking at them like, it's coming into the holiday season. Okay, so there's a tag in your list here that is called favorites. And this is my favorite tag. And it's called favorites for a reason. From now until probably mid-December, I am going to be stitching a lot of Christmas stockings. So I could make a tag called Christmas stocking, but then it's going to be there forever, and that may not be a problem. But I'm thinking about the fonts that I am going to be using every single day or every other day in the next 3 months as I'm doing my projects. So it would be so easy for me to click on the lettering object, click on favorites, and there's the font I want to use for my Christmas stockings. So how do and this is something that I know. First of all, one of the fonts that I use for Christmas stockings often is Christmas Swirl. So if I go into search and just type in Christmas Curl, there it is. I use this font all the time when I'm doing Christmas stockings. So I select it, click, hold, drag, and drop it into my favorites. Another one that I use is by Creative AlphaTricks, and it's called Recess. And you do know the name of your fonts. So RECESS. Okay, so there's Creative AlphaTricks Recess, and the one that I use most often is the 1 inch. So so I don't always have to type in recess to find it. I can click on recess, click, hold, drag and drop it into my favorites. If you just even happen to, let me clear this out, and you happen to notice, okay, I'm looking through my fonts, I'm finding the one that works really nice on my Christmas stocking. It's nice and fat and chunky, and it's just it. She Persisted. That's a nice one. That's kind of casual. It's boyish looking. There it is. I use it. I'm probably going to use this again for my Christmas stocking. Click, hold, drag, and drop it into my favorites. Now, I'm going to hit cancel to close out of this. So I'm going to hit my delete key. Click on my letter A. It brings in my ABC. Click on my Font Manager. Go to my favorites. And there's Creative AlphaTricks Recess. There's my She Persisted. There's my Christmas Curl, because I'm using that constantly. So the favorites list are things that you're using often, maybe, and it can be changed by simply adding in, dragging and dropping them, adding a new font, and removing them is just as simple. Say we wanted to get rid of this one font, maybe it's not one of our favorites that we're using right now. We don't want quick and easy access to it. If you select a font, make sure again that your preview is unchecked. When you right click on it and you choose the edit catalog entries, you'll see that the favorites will be listed there. Select that, choose delete entry, click OK, and now it's shown here because it has to be refreshed. So if you click off of it and then click back on, that design is gone, which means you can, if you're working on something this week and you're just always, or even today, and it's a font that you're going back and forth and you're always using this one font over and over again, add it to your favorites so that you don't have to find it in the huge font list. So that's the favorites is a fabulous tag. The other tags need to be set up based upon your personal preference. You'll see that I have created some that maybe they make sense, maybe they don't make sense. I was playing it. They can easily be changed. Okay, so say I've created this one called Sketch. Then I've put in this Sketch tag all of my sketchy fonts that I happen to go through that fit that category. What if sketch isn't something, I'm not going to that tag, but it's in my font list, or for whatever reason I don't want it here anymore. If you right click on the tag, you can say delete tag, and that will delete that tag. Make sure, again, preview has to be unchecked when you're doing any of these things. Click yes, and it will remove that tag so that it's no longer in your list. The whole purpose of having tags isn't to have something that you're going to scroll down through forever. To create tags, it's done by right-clicking, choose add tag, and type in the name of the tag that you need to have it in there. Now, because I right-clicked without selecting a category, it put it right in my satin tag. So you see it made it into a satin tag, a new tag underneath the satin. I was not careful where I put it. So let me right click on this and say delete tag, because I didn't want it in the satins. Where I wanted a new tag was under categories. So in my new category, what if I wanted to add a tag for my, foreign language fonts, whether that's Hebrew, or I have one here for Greek, but what if I wanted to make one for foreign languages, like for Hebrew? Or maybe that's so that I can easily find them. So under categories, I'm going to right click on it, choose add tag. I'm going to type in Hebrew, and that creates a new tag here. Now, right at the beginning here, I knew I saw something. Let me see if I type in Hebrew, Hebrew. So none of my fonts actually have the word Hebrew in the tag. So let's hit clear. Let's go to categories. We're going to go all the way to the top, because I know through here I was seeing, I probably need to put glasses on, that I did have Hebrew fonts. Usually I think it was SID. Did that sound familiar? There it is. I found it because I happen to remember that. There's my Fill Stitch font right here. Because I know I do have other ones, I just don't know what their numbers are. Click, hold, drag, and drop that into the Hebrew tag. Now, I think I had another Hebrew font, and it was a Jolson's font. So this is because I decided that I needed a tag called Hebrew. Now I want to go through all of my other fonts to see. I clicked on Jolson's Designs here, and I'm going to scroll through and hold on, Jolson's. There we go. Jolson's fonts. And I'm going to scroll through. Is that the one that had one? Yes. See these, how would I find this? So select this through this one, click, hold, drag, and drop them. Now I have 1,972 fonts on my computer. For someone that's starting out that just has maybe 50 fonts, it makes sense to look at those and make a plan and start organizing. So there's two, and work from that beginning, so that when you install more fonts, then go directly to your font manager, put them into the tags that they belong to, so that you can find your fonts. Otherwise, if you have a whole slew of fonts and you don't know, where your other fonts that would match, that's where you may have to create a tag. Whoopsie. I closed out my window by accident. Create the tag. Now go through your fonts to see, okay, where do I have one of those? Where do I have more fonts that match that tag? Because I don't know how to find them unless I know what the name of the font is. There's more than one way to do anything, but as I mentioned, the tags make sense for certain things, such as foreign language, such as applique, maybe monograms, all sorts of things. That whatever is a pain point for you, that is what makes the most sense for creating your tag list. And as I mentioned, you don't want to get too crazy, because you will not find, you don't want to have 50 tags that eventually becomes 100 tags, and now you can't find what it is that you are looking for in your whole font list. So hopefully that makes sense. It explains part of this as far as what it is that you need to be working on. My biggest suggestion would be is use the software with the search, with the filters at the top of the screen in your font manager. Try and get yourself used to using those before you start making your tag list. Once you've started using that and you know what the types of tags that you need, what will make sense, add your tags, drag and drop your fonts into whatever tags they belong to. One of the questions I get asked often is, can you put a font into more than one tag? Absolutely. The software does it when you have the subcategories. So if you put it into your sub tag of applique monograms, if you put it in the monogram folder, it automatically puts it in the applique folder. Can you then put it in a tag called monograms, which is separate? Absolutely. Can you then put it in your favorites? Absolutely. There's no reason, there's no limit to the number of tags you can assign to a font. There's no limit to the number of tags you can assign, period. Just one of the reasons we are happy that the font manager exists is because it is helping us find our fonts that we want to use for our project quickly and easily. Hopefully that helps. Have a great day. Be sure to check out the other videos that we have on the Embrilliance YouTube channel. That's if you go to YouTube and you type in Embrilliance, we have a playlist for each program. And there are for AlphaTricks, which is what we focused on today. There are many other videos on our AlphaTricks playlist that teach you how to do the font mapping and renaming of your fonts and using the features other than Font Manager on that playlist. Take care. Have a great day.